To be a technical demo for our new product, Retrospect Virtual. Just to give a brief overview of what that is, Retrospect Virtual consists of two core software components. The first being the Retrospect Virtual Management Console, which is the backup server software, and then the second being the Retrospect Virtual Host Server, which is the backup client software that you would be installing within your virtual environment to protect your VMs. To start with, we're going to cover the Virtual Management Console. That can be installed on a physical or virtual machine. It does not need to be installed on the virtual host server, which is the client software. And it can be accessed through a web browser from any machine as long as the machine that it's installed on has access to that network. So to start with, after installing it, you will have a Retrospect Virtual Management Console shortcut. Launching that will bring up your default web browser to log into. After the management console is installed, you will have a default user called System, and the password will also be System. That can be changed at any time. Once you log in, you'll see you have several different options to look at. There's some monitoring utilities as well as some basic setups for backup and restore, some system settings where you can apply the license, and then users, groups, and policies. Typically, the first thing that you'll do is you'll want to apply a license. Although once downloaded, if you download and don't apply a license, it will be in a trial mode, so you can use that. And so one of the other first things that you would want to do is create a user account that will be used with the Retrospect Virtual Host Server. So once you click on that, you'll see I already have a user here created. Add-on modules, you can limit what add-on modules they'll have access to. We do provide add-on modules for Exchange, SQL, and Oracle databases, so that can be enabled. So creating a user account is pretty straightforward. You can give it a name that you deem appropriate, along with a password. The password will require the use of an uppercase letter as well as some numbers and symbols. And here, there's some more options. They're under the general options here. So you could make this user a trial user or a paid user for the subscription type. You can also suspend the user or have the user get suspended at a particular date if it's a trial. And then at that time, the status for that user will become suspended or locked. And then next, here's where you can specify what add-on modules you want to give that user. Here we have several, as I was saying, Exchange and SQL and Oracle databases, as well as VMware and Hyper-V. And you can even specify the limit for how many guest VMs they can back up. Also, you would want to apply the in-file delta if you plan on backing up VMware files through change block tracking, so that needs to be enabled as well. Quota, this is you can set the quota for how much these users can back up. By default it's 50, but this can be changed into gigabytes or kilobytes. You can change how many run direct VMs they have. Run direct is a feature of the virtual host server that allows you to run the backup, allows you to run the VM from the backup itself. So if you have a high availability server that goes down and you need to have it up as soon as possible, you can use run direct and have that server backup and running within minutes while you troubleshoot the original system. Here you can add contact information, username or name, email, company, phone number, that kind of information. And then the user is created. And since I already had this QA account, that's what I'll be using to log in with once we get to the virtual host server software. User group and policy group, these are default, but you can go through and make even more granular options for these users. Second, is for backup and restore, you have a user home that contains all your user data. By default, this is in the program files directory under Retrospect VMC user. So this stores all of your any users that get created through the management console. So this, if you do plan on moving, you can export user data or migrate data to other management console systems. Free trial options, again, that's for the user. You can, set which ones they have access to. Run direct is, how you can specify the maximum number of virtual machines that can be started by run direct. By default, you can just leave it blank though. And then for system settings under basic, this is where you can change stuff like I was saying earlier. If you have a web server already installed, you can change what ports that the management console uses. You can change the system home directory if you need to. You can add SSL certificates. You can give it a host name. Email, this is where you can set up email, so it emails you reports. As you can see, you can get emails for low disk space reminder. It also sends you emails anytime user settings are updated or changed. And you can also set like an administrator contact. Predefined destinations, this is where you can set up a predefined destination for the virtual host server. So when that virtual host server logs in and they set up a backup set, they can either use this predefined destination or they can set up their own. As you can see, by default it's set to a local storage space, but the predefined destination has several options. You can go to some cloud services like Amazon S3, Google Drive, Microsoft Azure, Dropbox, FTP, SFTP. So there's definitely options for different locations for this predefined destination. The type, so a single storage destination is just, as it says, it's a single storage destination. You can do a destination pool, which you can add multiple different types of storage, either local or cloud, and then you can always add more storage in the future if that runs out. So there's definitely different options there. Then administrative access. So here's the default user account. So you can change the password for this account if you want to. You can also add a new user account. And adding new users, there's different options like as the type. So you can make it a read-only admin or a sub-admin. And that way you can give other users access if they just need to log in for some of the monitoring tools. And then of course there's different languages that you can set to just besides English. And then for monitoring, there's different options. There's the dashboard. The dashboard will give you information about missed backups, failed backups, any sort of system errors. You can see there was a missed backup from this user account. So it just gives you information here, gives you an overview of the system and CPU and memory of the machine. It just gives you some live monitoring information for the current system it's installed on. So live activities, this is where you can look at Retrospect virtual host server activities that are actually running. Currently I don't have anything running, so there's no entries under backup status or restore status. But you can filter by different types. You can filter by particular users if you're looking for a particular user, among other things. And then there are specific logs for backup and restore that you can take a look at. So here you can look at specific backup jobs, when they were run on, by what user group or what user, and then job status. You can look for particular types of statuses, and also you can view particular days. And And so here we will, looks like lost remote connection for a little bit. There we go. So here you can look at particular points in time. So as you can see, yesterday I ran several backups. You can download the backup report as well. You can click on it and get a view of what happened within those backup jobs. Actually, yeah, no, that's not the right location. Yeah, so download, we'll just download the PDF so you can look at them. But it just kind of gives you a brief overview of what happened, like the time, how long it, the size, and what the status was. So you can see that it says okay, so there's no errors. Same for restore jobs. So here's one that I did today. The size is 0 because this was a direct run restore, so there was no actual data restore. It just launched the VM from within the backup. You can look at backup errors. As you can see, none of the backups I've run so far have had any errors, so there's none listed under here. And then so for the virtual host server, you can actually get the download from this icon here. So this will allow you to save the installer for the virtual host server, and then they can run this on the systems they plan on saving or they plan on installing the virtual host server. License is where you can apply the license for the virtual management console. Right now it's just a trial license, like I was saying, but here this will tell you your license details about what kind of client software you have, and then also the add-ons. As you can see, this is a trial, so that you have a lot of quota, but depending on the license, these numbers will be these values will be different. And so that is the management console, and so we can now move on to the virtual host server. After that gets installed, you will see there's a shortcut for the virtual host server. This will launch its own different software. And so this is what you want to install within your virtual environment. So I have this installed within a VM, and what this will do in a VMware environment is you will have it log into a ESX host or vCenter server, so that way you can see what VMs are available for backup. The login window here is to log into the virtual management console server, and so this is the user account that was created previously. As I log in, and one thing to mention after this is first installed, you want to click on Show Advanced option, and you want to point it to the backup server, and you can change it between HTTP or HTTPS, and you can, if you need to set up a proxy, you can. But that is the server that I'm going to be logging into. So once logged in, you'll get these options to create your backup sets. So when you go to backup sets, you can see I already have a few already created, but creating a backup set is pretty straightforward. You click on Add, and you can give it a name, and the backup set type in this particular case is going to be a VMware backup, and the version, so you can specify the version of your ESX or ESXi hosts, as well as vCenter. You can log into a vCenter server. So I'm going to log into a vCenter server because we have multiple ESX hosts, so this will allow us to see all of the VMs across all those hosts. And enter in the vCenter's IP address. And here it'll connect to that host, so that way you can get a view of what VMs are installed, and you can choose the particular VMs that you want to back up. So as you can see, here's our VM environment. And as we expand, you can expand into different layers. Here I'll be going to hosts and clusters, go into our 64-bit cluster. And then here you can even see the individual ESXi hosts that we have, as well as the resource pools. So I'm going to choose something under demo, and you'll see we have various a couple VMs here, and you can even see which ones are running or turned off. Just so happens that all of these under this one are going to be running. And also, if you don't want to back up all of the disks for the VM, you can even go one step further and just choose particular hard disks. In this case, this one only has one, but if you had more than one, you could choose to back up only a particular disk if you felt that you didn't need to back up all of them. So I'm going to choose this one. And then in the next window is where you can set up the backup schedule. So by default, it's turned on. There's an existing schedule that's set for daily. You can delete this backup schedule if you don't want it to be daily. The type and the stop have to be changed at creation. Can be changed at creation time, but after it's created, it can't be changed. And you can have multiple schedules, of course. And then after it's done, you can run your retention policy, which is how many backups it will keep. So if you want to keep so many backups, after a backup runs, it'll make sure it only has that particular number after each backup. And of course, so under add, you can change it from daily, weekly, monthly, custom. And then you can also change the start backup at, and then the stop is until full backup is completed. And you can, again, run retention policy after backup if you want. And then next, so for the destination, there's two different backup modes. Sequential, which means you can only back up to one destination at a time. Or you can do concurrent, where you can back up to different sources concurrently to a destination. And you can set how many concurrent backups can go at a time. So if you don't want to saturate your network with backups, you can limit this. I'm going to set to sequential for now. And then so when you add a storage destination, you have several different options. You have a single storage destination, which, as it says, is just a single storage. The destination storage, so this would be the management console server, so you could back up your information to that, or you can back up to a local mapped removable drive. This could be a NAS, a SAN, or a locally attached disk. And one thing to note for run direct, it needs to be a local mapped removable drive location. It can't be saved in the cloud. You can set a destination pool. Again, a destination pool is you can add several different storage locations. As you can see, run direct is not an option here. So just for the sake of run direct, we'll say single storage destination. Oh, and of course you got to put in a path. So I can save it here. And then we have our backup destination. And then after that, it's created. And if you want to run a backup now, you can. First backup, of course, will be a full backup. Any subsequent backups, you can change that. By default, it'll be an incremental. But as you can see, if you click on the backup set here, you can change particular items for each set. So like if you wanted to log into a different vCenter host or a different ESXi host, you can. Source, you can change the source. Backup schedule is the backup schedule. Continuous backup is if you want to have it do a backup after any change. And then of course you can change the destination. You got advanced settings like in-file delta. This is where you can, by default, it'll do an incremental backup and it's turned on. Differences between differential and incremental, of course, are if you do a differential, that is whatever's changed since the last full backup, while incremental is whatever's changed since the last backup. So typically I would leave it as incremental. And then you can even even have more granular in-file delta options and weekly variations for overriding the default type. Say if you wanted to have like a full on Sunday and then incrementals throughout the rest of the week, you could have it run that way. Even yearly variations, if you want to, you know, have a full in January and then the rest be all incremental backups, you can do that as well. Retention policy, that's just how many files to keep. Advanced lets you add a more custom retention policy. So you can see you can do it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly, or custom, and the past number of days on which different versions of your files are retained, so you can change this from 1 to more, all the way up to a year. And then other than that, you can also delete this backup set in this page if you wanted to, if you were done with that backup. So for example, since this is just a test one, I can delete it. And are you sure you want to delete it? Yes, it will go through. It'll give you another warning saying it's going to delete all the files and it's irreversible. It's fine. So it goes through and removes all the directories that were in use for this backup set. So once that's done, you now have several backups. Under backup, you can run a manual backup. As you can see, you can choose it and run it. I'm not going to, as that can take some time. For report will show you, different backup and restore reports. Here's where you can get a more granular or a look at the log and see what actually happened. So here's a backup that ran yesterday. I can click at the log and you can see different items for each log. And you can also have multiple pages. You can switch between pages, or you can switch how many lines per page. In case you don't want to go look through all the pages, you can only show particular types. If you had an error and you wanted to see it, you could just click on error and it would show you errors. I don't have any for this one, so there's none there. You can change between sets, what destination, and also what particular log that's in that backup set, so I can switch to the other log. Same for restore, so it's the same thing. You can see there's a failed one here. This is mostly, and see here's failed to restore, and the reason was that the port for direct run to run on was not open on this machine, which is 1058, as direct run needs to mount the location of where the backup is stored as an NFS mount to the ESXi host. So that was the reason why that failed. For usage, you can see what kind of usage you're getting out of your backups. If that's something you need to worry about or you're curious how much it is, you can see it. One backup took 23 gigs. And then, so for settings are pretty straightforward. There's not a too awful lot of settings. You could, if you need a proxy to access the internet, in case you need to access the virtual management console through the internet, you can use a proxy. The Windows event log you can turn on to save logging into the Windows event log, and you can choose particular event sources that you want. So for example, if you only wanted errors and warnings for backup and restores to be posted, you can change that, or you can enable all of them as you see fit. Utilities, it's just pretty straightforward. You can do a data integrity check on your backups. You can also tell it to do a CRC check, as well as you can free up space, and all your backup sets are particular backup sets. This will remove obsolete files from your backup destination according to your retention policy. You can delete backup data from here, and you can also decrypt backup data if you have encryption turned on. And then next, finally for restores, restores are pretty straightforward. You would choose the backup set. You would choose the location for which the backups are restored on. So if you had a destination pool, you could choose which particular one, but since this was a single destination, there's only one. So you choose it, then you get sort of a VMware view list of your backups. Here I only have one machine, so as you can see, it's this one machine. You can even choose a particular hard disk if you wanted only to restore one hard disk. And once you choose it, you can see the hard disk and all the VMware configuration files that you want to restore. You can even change, what particular date you want to restore from this page. So this was the first backup, and then this was the second backup that I did. And then you can also restore these as a raw file if you want to. If you don't want to restore it back to you don't want to restore it back to the ESX host. So here is where you can choose the location where to restore the virtual machine to. There's the original location. So if the VM exists already, it will overwrite it. So we're not going to do that as a test. But for alternate locations, since we're going to use run direct, and again, run direct is where it just runs it directly from within the backup. So if you have a high availability server, it's up and running, and you can start to work on, or even if the original is toast and there's no saving it, you can start to migrate this after run direct is running. So this limits the downtime of that system. You can also have it auto power on. And again, this is real quick, so you're going to log into your VMware host. And again, you can change this just in case there's, a user changed, or for whatever reason used a user account that doesn't have proper permissions, which I did in this case. And here, what it will do is it will log into the vCenter host, and it will show you your different options or different locations for restore. So you can, give it a custom name, so that way this is the direct run machine that you're restoring. Or if you're restoring the actual VM, you can give it a different name, so you have a copy. So here, direct run, and then inventory location. If you want to put it in a particular inventory location, I'm going to put it in desktop. Then if you want it to go to a particular host / cluster, I don't want it to go to here because that's not the cluster I want it in. So I wanted it on the Chase ESX host. And then you can even choose a resource pool. So I want to put it back in the demo resource pool. And then you can even choose the particular storage. So for this one, I actually want it to go to the Chase storage 4, since I know that has enough free space. And then here is this is the staging area for restoring. So just leave the default. Unless it doesn't have enough free space, you can change it to another location. And here it starts to get the restore in progress. It's going to come up with a warning asking if I really want to do the restore, which I'll want to click yes to. So I'm going to say yes. And he's preparing for run direct. It's mounting the backup as a data store within the VMware environment. Now it's adding the virtual machine. Taking a snapshot. And now it's powering it on. And so if you have a vSphere client, you can see that I now have this direct run VM under demo, and as you can see, it was turned off, and now it's getting turned on. And you can see, you'll see the various tasks that the virtual host server client is doing through your tasks. And as you can see here, we can open the console. And once the console connects, we'll see that it's up and running or powering on. Yep, as you can see, it's logged in, so we could log into that machine if we wanted to, and it's available to be used. And so if we go back, once you close it, you can manage the run direct virtual machine. So if you had more than one, you could click on it. But here's one. So this will come up and bring up some details about the VM machine that you're using run direct for. And then if you're done, and then if you're not wanting to migrate this machine and you're done with run direct, you can stop it from here. So that way it cleans up after itself and stops the VM and removes it from the inventory. So as you can see here, it's if you want to migrate it, you can migrate it to this Chase4 storage, or you can browse and change that if you want. So now that I'm done with it, I can just click on stop. Run direct virtual machine. Yes. So you see it's powering it off. And then it's going to remove it. And it's cleaning up after itself, so then it's all done. So again, yeah, that's real quick, and that's it for the virtual host server. Again, very straightforward, and the management console. Just to kind of give a brief overview on licensing. So for licensing is pretty straightforward. Here's some licensing examples. This will be up in our KB article as well. This is a KB article, so this will be available to look at any time. But the management console is your management and monitoring dashboard, and it's licensed by a managed service provider, but it can also be licensed directly by a customer for managing their own unique environment. So you can see Retrospect Virtual Management Console allows you to manage your entire virtual data infrastructure anytime from anywhere. All of your customers roll up under the same dashboard and management tools, so you only need to check on a place for a complete view of your virtual data protection. So you can, you have access to all of your users and their individual settings. You can enable, disable specific features. Can keep an eye on your systems. Can have specific group policies, backup destinations, and you can even have customers try the product before buying. And then the Retrospect Virtual Host Server. Again, that's the backup agent that you install on your host. It supports ESX, vCenter, Hyper-V, and then this is what your customer would license. You then connect it to your virtual management console for remote management and monitoring. For granular backup of virtualized applications, you need to install a second virtual host server on individual guest machines to protect, say, databases and applications. So this would apply for Exchange, SQL, Oracle, and then the add-ons. So you can protect the virtual environment based on either sockets or guest virtual machines. It gives a little bit more flexible approach to pricing and tailors it to your particular individual or customer's particular individual environment. But for larger environments, per socket licensing is the best choice. And then, so here's just some examples. Let's say you protect a design company with one VMware host and 5 VMs. As a managed service provider, you already own the management console, and these are the necessary components to protect the environment. They just need the virtual SMB bundle of 5 VMware VMs, and that's the total price right there. And then another example would be, say, a retail outlet using Hyper-V. You protect a retail outlet with one Hyper-V host and 7 VMs. As the managed service provider, you already own the virtual management console, and these are the necessary components to protect that particular environment. You would need a virtual SMB bundle of 5 Hyper-VMs, and then a Retrospect Virtual Hyper-V Guest add-on. And then that would be the total price at the bottom. And second, just to kind of give a key feature, just kind of go over the key features one last time for the product. It has hypervisor support, so it protects both VMware Hyper-V, has centralized management. That's what the management console is for. Instant recovery. That's what you saw with the Run Direct. So you can have critical systems up and running, immediately. Flexible destinations, local, network, cloud, um, which includes Amazon S3, Google, Microsoft Azure, OpenStack, Dropbox. Granular application protection, which is again Exchange, SQL, Oracle, MySQL databases. Also, Lotus Domino and Lotus Notes. There's real-time status monitoring, and you can run this in the cloud as well as centralized user administration. So hope you enjoyed this presentation, and that is all. Thank you.